You can go to our YouTube, you can go to our Facebook, or you can go to our Instagram. I'm doing it here live on TikTok, and I'm have a live stream going, and people can send us questions. So Jackie is with me, okay? And so we're going to start talking. So Jackie and I were talking today about I'm getting TikTok has banned some of my content. I don't know why it's banned some of my content. And they're banning a lot of my comments. TikTok is, and I don't know why they're doing that. And I have an idea why TikTok's doing that. I think TikTok's doing that because people are really posting bad stuff, like vigilante stuff, like extrajudicial stuff. So let me just push back on that a second. Luigi Mangione is presumed innocent. From what I've seen, and I've watched a Tubi documentary that was puffed up. If all they have are those photos, they don't have much people that are rooting for Luigi. But we have to let this investigation play out. Now, they say they have smudges of fingerprints. Smudges of fingerprints. Facebook where? Beatrice Kopp Facebook page. Beatrice Kopp on YouTube. And I have all the comments here. Is the Luigi going to sue? They have his DNA fingerprints. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Here's a question, Jack. They have his DNA fingerprints and witnesses. Also, his face is all over every camera. They don't have his DNA yet. It takes time to formulate DNA. Correct, Jack?
100%.
So there's no way they have his DNA fingerprints yet. So when I say DNA fingerprints, people on TikTok, that's a misnomer. When you touch something like my glasses here, you leave your oil on it. And sometimes, not always, they can lift that. Now, the shell casings that were left at the scene, if, and this is a big if they can lift Luigi's DNA off of those shell casings, that's going to be a very tough piece of evidence. Okay.
But David, what if they're not on the shell casings?
So if he was, first of all, I had a question about the manifesto. So the manifesto is just simply him ranting. It's not, I mean, it is a good piece of evidence for the prosecution. I'll be honest with you. But
if
that's
they
not
lay the proper predicate and foundation to actually link it to him, because did he actually write it?
Well, you know, handwriting experts are not accepted into court. Right? So, you know, he didn't write it. People are saying he didn't write it. We don't know whether he wrote it or not. But even if he did write it, if all they have is the writing and his photos, it's a horse race. And Karen Friedman Agnifilo is one hell of a lawyer. Okay? All right. So people are now asking us questions over here. Thank you for
doing
this.
Let me say something, David, if I can just comment on the same way that you believe your content is being taken down. On the converse side of things, there are content providers and influencers and lawfluencers like ourselves that are complaining that because they're pro Luigi, their things are being taken down and they're afraid of tainting the viewer, the public, etc. So on the flip side of things, there's content being, I happen to know a couple of them, content being removed because it's too pro Luigi, but on the same sense, they're censoring people that are like yourself and myself, objectively looking at this. So, you know, First Amendment, I think it's bullshit that they're removing anything. Just okay, wanted to put that out there.
People on TikTok, is it echoing onto you? Can someone let me know if it's echoing? I had a comment saying it's echoing. Where is that? I'm not going to invite, listen, I'd love to invite people onto TikTok with me, but I'm a boomer and I barely know what I'm doing.
Not echoing, David. They said not echoing.
It's not echoing. All right, good. It's not echoing. All right, so here's what we know they have so far. And look, I've been doing this almost 40 years now, and I've done a lot of murder cases. So is Jackie. Jackie's in our Palm Beach office, by the way. for those of you that there. All right,
but
we're going to get to all the questions.
My original streets, my foundation, David, just so people know, I was a public defender, a public servant in Miami-Dade County during the excessive case litigation, where I represented indigent criminals in Miami-Dade for 3 years, fresh out of law school. And I saw everything, and we tried everything. And so while I don't have David's experience by any means, I do have the experience and from a different angle. And so I think, David, your analysis thus far, maybe I'm a little biased, has been on the money with Luigi. And
my spidey senses, Jackie, are going off. And here's why my spidey senses, everyone on TikTok and everyone on YouTube. And Shelly, we'll get to your question in a second on YouTube. My spidey senses are going off because if they had the silver bullet, if they had the literal smoking gun, that would have been leaked to the press already. Like if they had like the piece of evidence that directly tied him, they would have leaked that already to the press. And they haven't, which means they're still digging. Okay, Shelly, this question is, can Luigi be given bail? The answer is no. And let me tell you why. In the federal system, believe it or not, they have a law called the Bail Reform Act, of all things, if you can believe it. And that is covered by 18 United States Code 1342. That creates a structure to keep Luigi locked up until his trial, should the federal government indict him. Okay? So, will he get bail in February? If he's indicted by the federal government, I do not think the same statute that's keeping Sean Combs incarcerated is the same statute that will keep Luigi incarcerated. So someone on here said, I read the bullets didn't match. Why hold on to a crime scene weapon for 3 days? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about ballistics. What are ballistics? People are asking me what are ballistics. So when you have a weapon, okay, and by the way, Jack, I got banned. My first live got banned because I was showing people how a silencer goes into a weapon and they banned me. So you can't do that. So a silencer is screwed into a weapon. And when a bullet comes out of a barrel, it is spinning. They hone the barrel, and that's what makes the barrel shoot straight. So think of the Revolutionary War, everyone. They didn't have rifling or striations in the barrel, and that's why the bullets wouldn't come out straight. And so the technology went up a pace where they realized if they barreled into the barrel, that the bullet would come out straight. They also learned that every gun has unique striations on the bullets, okay, and unique strike patterns on the shell casings. Now, what they're going to do with the weapon they found on Luigi is they are going to test fire that weapon and compare it to any bullet fragments or bullets that they could have recovered from the victim and look at those microscopically. Now, ballistics have taken, I don't want to say a backseat, but they've been questioned a lot under a thing called the Daubert rule. What is the Daubert rule? Well, Jackie's too young to realize this, but back in the day, you used to be able to throw anyone up and they could be an expert.
That was the Fry standard. I'm not too young, and it was just superseded in the state of Florida. We used to have the Fry standard, and now we have the Daubert standard, which actually...
Daubert standard is it has to be a recognized... Yeah, it has to be a recognized science, okay? Now, ballistics, lately, some courts have been questioning the science behind ballistics. In the last murder case I did, I questioned it under Daubert. The judge let it in, okay? And so I don't know, but they have a weapon they took from him, and they are test firing it as we speak, okay? And they are then going to compare the strike patterns on the shell casings that was left at the scene. So when you're not using a revolver, if you're using like a Glock or a 9mm, when you fire the weapon, the shell casing, the bullet comes out of the barrel, it goes down the barrel, it makes unique marks on the bullet. The bullet goes into the victim, say. If they can pull the bullet out of the victim, and then they have the shell casings, they can compare the shell casings once they test fire the weapon. Here's the kerfluffle, or sort of the unique thing in this case is it's a ghost gun. Okay, Jackie? And the law always, people on TikTok, the law always falls behind the science. So I don't know, because I've not had a case yet with a ghost gun. Sometimes with ghost guns, depending on what they use for the barrel, 1 or 2 shots and the gun is done. If they use a metal barrel, I don't know if the science has caught up with, the law has caught up with the science. So we don't know what the ballistics show yet. But my spidey instincts, my gut, Jackie, is that if those ballistics matched, they would have released that, or they would have leaked that to the press. So I don't think they're done with the ballistics yet, and I don't think it. All right. So now Shelley is asking me,
to that point, I also think it's extra suspect that there was a whole hoopla on the inscription on the casing, right? Remember that? Like when this whole thing went down.
Delay, deny, and what was the other word he used?
And so that like allured the motive, the whole theater of this whole thing. But yet they haven't, the smoking gun, like pun intended here, like they haven't put that out there. They were real quick to do that.
Yeah,
depose. I don't think they have the forensics.
And they're saying depose. Wait a minute, the people on TikTok are telling me depose, deny, and what else? People on TikTok? Depose, deny, and something else. Okay. Depose, deny, and delay. Depose, deny, and delay. So, when you are loading a weapon, people on TikTok, you are pressing down, and your DNA could possibly be on those shell casings. Now, I've done murder cases since DNA's been in advent. They have never lifted DNA in any murder case I've done on shell casings. So I doubt they've lifted any DNA off those shell casings. Okay. They say they have a water bottle that he used and a candy bar wrapper. Now, if they can lift the DNA from that and then get his DNA, deny, defend, and depose were the 3 words. Deny, defend, and depose. Okay. And so let me go down here. TV mark recently. Okay. So if they can, and I don't think they can, if they can lift the DNA off the shell casings and tie it to Luigi, that's a bad piece of evidence for Luigi. Okay. So we don't know that. I don't think they have the piece of evidence. This is what makes me sus of the case, Jackie, because if they did, they would have leaked it to the press. Okay. And the fact that the federal government now has asked for more time. So people on TikTok and on YouTube and everything else, there's a difference between a state indictment and a federal indictment. Okay. A federal indictment is usually much lengthier than a state indictment. Okay.
Because why, David? Because the implication, explain why. Because for a common person that's not a lawyer, the implications of a federal crime versus a state crime are different leagues. Yeah,
they're different leagues. Look, when they do a federal indictment, it's very lengthy. And you don't have to file what's called a bill of particulars in a federal case, because the indictment sort of gives you everything. Okay. So I'm just telling people everywhere, I don't think the ballistics are done yet. And even if the ballistics are done, it's a ghost gun. And I don't know if the science, I don't know if the law or the experts can say on ghost guns whether it's the same on a regular weapon. So
well, I can
what
tell
happens,
you, David, how do they have any level of scientific reliability that is backed by actual empirical data? How can they do that if they haven't studied it and they don't have the underlying data? And so defense,
right?
the attorney he has will make a challenge if that ever
Oh
comes
yeah.
to fruition. And
Look,
she will create law on that issue, because you can't, like, the Fry standard was willy-nilly, right? Anyone could be an expert. But in this particular issue that hasn't been dabbled in yet, let alone scientifically researched, with ghost guns, what is the underlying source data? What is going to be the scientific reliable data that they would even rely upon?
I don't know, but let's take a minute and talk about his lawyer. Her name is Karen Friedman Agnifilo, and her husband is Mark Agnifilo. Now, Mark Agnifilo and Karen Friedman Agnifilo are on the federal case together. Karen Friedman Agnifilo is only on his state case. So let's talk about, because I get this question so much. Why is this not double jeopardy? It's not double jeopardy because the United States Supreme Court has ruled that the federal government is a separate sovereignty from all the 50 states. So when you commit a crime, you can commit a federal crime and a state crime. You could be prosecuted in the federal system and you could be prosecuted in the state system, and it is not considered double jeopardy. So everyone that's saying it's double jeopardy, it is not double jeopardy. It is separate. How did they make this a federal crime? Well, technically, if the federal government wanted to make anything a crime, they could, under the Interstate Commerce Clause. I had a client one time, literally, who's a 19-year-old gangbanger. The federal government had been on him. They'd been wanting him for a long time. They indicted him federally. And you know what grounds they used to indict my client federally? The goods the store he robbed from came from interstate commerce. Yeah, that's what happened. So anytime the federal government wants to get involved in a case, they can. The federal courts are courts of limited jurisdiction. That's why it's so hard to win in federal court, because federal cases, they don't take all the cases they can. They're very selective on the cases they found with him. So let's go over where we sit right now, because I have people on TikTok saying, oh, it's definitely him. Look, people, we have a Bill of Rights. We got the Bill of Rights from a Revolutionary War when we threw off the yoke of a king, okay? The Bill of Rights came about because the king wouldn't give you speedy trials. The king wouldn't presume you to be innocent. And the king wouldn't make them prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And you didn't get a jury trial. All of those rights that you enjoy came from the Bill of Rights, and the 14th Amendment applied to the states. So Luigi Mangione, as we sit here right now, he's presumed to be innocent. And unless and until the government brings credible proof to court to prove him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, he can't be convicted. And so we have to wait and see. There's so much we don't wait. Okay, Shelly has a question here. As an attorney, do you think the photos match Luigi? All right, let's talk about the photos. Let's talk about the CCTV cameras and the 2 terabytes of information they told his lawyer, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, that they have. By the way, I call her the Lamborghini of lawyers because she's that good. I followed her before she got on this case. She's tenacious. For those that are on Luigi's side of the ledger here, she's tenacious. She's fierce, and she's not afraid to speak truth to power. Okay. He's in good hands with her. Her husband's on the case with her federally because there's different procedures in federal court than there are in state court. I like to talk in picture words, Jackie. So I tell people, well, what's the difference? Think of a church. So you have a church, right? But you're in different pews. Same church, same kind of concepts, but you're in different pews. So think of the state and federal system like that. Okay. So he's in good hands with Karen Friedman Agnifilo. So we have a lot of CCTV. There's a lot of it because according to them, according to the government, he got into New York, I think it was December 24th, if my memory serves me correctly. On a post, I may have said December 30th, but I think it was December 24th. And so they have 10 days of CCTV. Now, there's a lot you can do with that. There's a lot of AI facial recognitions. And so there are static figures in the camera. What do I mean by that? Well, if you watched him or this perpetrator do what he did, there's a trash can there. There's things that people can go out and measure. And those are static figures. And then they could take those measurements and apply it to whoever the shooter was and say, well, this is how tall the shooter is. So, and then they could take the pictures they have and they could put AI on it if it's going to be recognized in a court. Once again, the law always runs behind the science. So will AI facial recognition pass the Daubert test? I haven't had that yet, but that's a ground upon which Karen Friedman Agnifilo could challenge any facial recognition. You know, you could do the eyes, the measurements, the eyebrows. So,
but David, at the same time, she may not want to exclude that because, as we know, even when the state brings expert witnesses to say this is that, to when it's her case, when it's her case and her chance, Karen's case, if she undercuts the predicate for on a Daubert challenge under AI, she then undercuts her ability to present her own independent AI experts, because I know a lot of people on TikTok and a lot of people out there are like, what the F? The pictures don't look like him. You can look at still shots. It's just not consistent. And so I think, as part of a theory of defense, if I were her, and particularly if they're going to use the CCTV in these things, you can use that against the state to be like, well, at the same sense, this cannot be relied upon. And so I think, you know, I'm sure Karen is weighing all of these chess moves and whatnot, but it's one of those things where you're kind of, you know, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. Great, but let the state come on and say this is reliable. And then Karen can put on her expert that'll show how unreliable those are and how this could be you, me, and the wrong light with a hoodie on. You know, some of these videos I saw, it looks like a straight female. Like, this is not him. This is not Luigi.
Here's my original post on TikTok got 9 million views. I went viral. And why it went viral was what I was suspect was that backpack is so unique looking. So they don't have a front shot of the guy. They don't have a front shot of Luigi. They have a camera on the back of him. So the person that did this knew there was a camera to the back of them and knew there was no camera to the front of them. Okay? So that took some planning, if you will. And then the backpack is so unique. It's almost as if that person wanted you to see that backpack. Like, they wanted you to see that backpack. Because why would you have that backpack knowing there's a camera behind you but no camera in front of you? That's what made me suspect about it. Okay? And so, look, they're going to be here are the killer pieces of evidence. And I don't mean to use the word killer piece of evidence lightly. DNA and ballistics and whatever they can lift from those photos. Okay. So we just don't know what we don't know yet. But I'm very suspect because, Jackie, I think that if the government had a really solid piece of evidence, one of those detectives, someone would leak it to the press. And all we have,
100%.
100%.
You're 100% right.
Do people on TikTok think that? Do you think that if they had a really killer piece of evidence, they wouldn't have leaked that already? Okay.
And they're going to do the pomp and circumstance of the helicopter with all
yeah. I mean,
they're doing all the distractions, the smoke and mirrors that are not foundationally equivalent to having the smoking gun or the case wrapped up. Like, they're doing all the distractions and the smoke and mirrors, and it's suspect. It's
right. Someone on our YouTube channel said there's obviously more footage of the assassin because of how many cameras there are in New York City. That's the footage they want us to see. Exactly. It's my
Let's
exact
roll
point.
the tapes. Let's get all of it.
Roll the tape. So Karen Friedman Agnifilo, she's going to get all the videos. Okay. I mean, look, if my gut could be wrong, people, Luigi could be guilty. They could prove him guilty. Maybe they haven't, maybe they don't. But my spidey senses are going off. My spidey senses are, if this was a rage killing, I mean, it's like boom, 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 and then you run from the scene. This was so cold and calculating. And then he knows the camera behind him is filming. He walks from the scene, and he's very adept with the weapon. If you look at it, he knew how to unjam the weapon. So this isn't like someone that didn't know how to use a weapon. So this is someone that knows how to use a weapon. All right. And then he went over and so cold and calculating, assassinated this man. All right. And then goes into Central Park where there's no cameras and leaves the backpack, but then's caught in Altoona, Pennsylvania with a manifesto and a weapon. Why get rid of the backpack and keep the weapon? What are you keeping the weapon for? It's a ghost gun. It's just my spidey senses are going off. Okay, if you wait a minute. So let me see if this.
David, what are your thoughts on the fact that? And I saw I'm seeing some of the TikTok comments that are on here. The wife at first, at the beginning of this case break, there were some drips and drabs, and I think one of your earlier TikToks that you did that was pretty popular, you mentioned the fact that in one of these, you look at spouses, extramarital affairs, things of that nature. And initially there was a little bit of some light gleaned on her, but we haven't heard anything about the wife of the alleged victim in this case or anything.
Let me say something about a spouse or a boyfriend and girlfriend, and then I want to get to Trent G's comment, because this is what's alarming me about this case. Okay. The spouse or the girlfriend or the husband or the wife, they're always the first suspect until they're not. Okay. So they're looking at the wife, but they have zeroed in now on Luigi. And so where I've seen investigators make mistakes is once they zero in on someone, they put blinders on, and evidence that can exonerate someone, they don't want to see it. They just want anything that implicates Luigi. Now, Trent G, I want to highlight this comment, and I want to push back on it greatly. Trent G said the CEO didn't get assassinated, he got karma. Okay, listen to me, everyone. Listen to me, everyone. This is a very important point. I understand that people are frustrated with our healthcare system. I understand that it is crappy and that CEOs seem like they get away with everything. If you think of the financial crash in 2008, not one CEO was held liable, and yet millions of people had their homes foreclosed on. Okay. I understand this settlement. I understand this sentiment. What we cannot have is extrajudicial action or vigilante justice. Luigi is presumed innocent. He's going to get a trial. He's going to get due process. But if he's found guilty, and that's a big if, then it's not okay. It's not okay, people. Okay? If you think that the CEO got karma and not justice, if that is your position, that he deserved it, then you're with the January 6th people. Then you're okay at storming the Capitol. Then violence is okay for you. And violence is never okay in this country to solve problems. Okay? So I want to push back greatly on that. I think that's why TikTok is, you should see all my comments on TikTok that get taken off because people want to say this was righteous. Okay? It's not righteous. It's not righteous. This man was assassinated. He may have done the work. I've represented murderers who have killed other terrible people. Okay? No one has the right in this country to be the judge, jury, and executioner. And I'm going to push back on everyone and anyone that says somehow this was righteous. It was not righteous. I understand people are frustrated. I understand that people are mad because there's such a disparity between the wealthy and the middle class and the poor. Believe me, I fought that battle for years. Okay? People even commented, "Oh, you're speaking from a place of privilege." People don't know my background. No one knows what I've suffered through in my life, the hurdles I had to overcome. Okay? I mean, I don't want this to get political. I want to keep it from a legal perspective. But the only thing I'm going to say political about this is if you're out there saying this was righteous, you're wrong. I'm sorry. You can't have violence to settle political scores. Then if you say this was righteous, then go join those people on January 6th that stormed the Capitol because they thought they were righteous. That's the problem with extrajudicial and vigilantism. If your neighbor thinks, "Oh, well, you wronged him, and so he's righteous, he's going to come over and off you." You see, that's where it leads to. It leads to anarchy. Okay? And we can't have anarchy in this country. I'm not giving up on this country. I'm never going to give up on the United States. We live in the home of the free and the brave. My son serves in the service, and he protects this country, and I'm as liberal as you get. You don't get more liberal than me. But violence is not a way to answer this. I was really upset when I saw Senator, oh gosh, I'm a boomer and I'm having a senior moment. Who's the senator from Massachusetts?
Which one? And if I can say something, David,
Go ahead.
I'm actually a Republican. I'm a conservative, but I agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said. Maybe not so much in January 6th.
Someone just said, you can't compare me to the Jan 6 guys. Yeah,
well, that was what I was going to say. But here's the thing, David. If we're going to keep politics out of this, let's take January 6th because that's a trigger point for people. No pun intended.
I understand it's a trigger point, but those people thought they were righteous, right?
But that's the ultimate point you're making, right? At the end of the day, the same way that if the people who rally behind Luigi because they believe he stands for something that's a greater good and he was serving the people,
right?
Great. That's all well and good, but violence, killing someone is not the way that we achieve that because if that's our standard, that's our precedent. Whatever you stand for, right, left, religiously, that will come back at you. And we have a rule of law for a reason, and that's why we do what we do. Like that's right. Why this is even a conversation.
Right. So look, I have so many people commenting that this was somehow okay. That's bothersome to me.
It's not okay. It's never,
It's not
just so
okay.
I'm clear, Dave and I
Not
are both
okay.
lawyers. We're criminal
It's
defense
not
attorneys.
okay.
It's not okay.
Okay, because when you start down that path, people on TikTok who are pro Luigi, once you start down that path, there's no coming back from it. Then you have your neighbor coming over and he's getting his justice, and the guy you had a breach of contract with coming and stealing your goods, and it just doesn't stop. Extrajudicial justice is something the government should push back on hard. I'm sorry.
But then, David, think about it. The reason these people
here, I have this
rally
question
behind
here.
Luigi
Wait a minute. I want to answer this question. Hold on a second. Abby Joy, wouldn't you defend him even if he was guilty? I don't care whether he's guilty or not. I don't care about actual guilt. Actual guilt is meaningless to a criminal defense lawyer. Let me make that clear to everyone. Actual guilt is meaningless to me. I don't care. I am going to defend your right to have a fair trial and your right to make the government prove it by the rules. I don't care whether he did it or not. I only care whether the government can prove it. If the government can prove it, then he's had his due process. Then he's had an aggressive lawyer in there picking a jury, okay? And then I don't care whether he did it or not. It is meaningless to me. Actual guilt. People want to say, how can you defend someone? I'm defending all of you. A criminal defense lawyer,
the Constitution.
a criminal defense lawyer is defending all of you, because it might be you the next time the government comes over. If you look at my posts, the only piece of art I have in my office is a guy standing there holding a shoe. And that's the shoe of the government. Okay? So, everyone say, oh, he's guilty. Why have a trial? Because he has a right to a trial. Because if you or your family member is charged with a crime, you should have the same rights that Luigi has, that Sean Combs has, that any defendant has. I'm sorry I'm getting passionate about this, but criminal defense lawyers do more defending your rights than prosecutors do. We're the ones making the government, we're holding their feet to the fire. We're saying, if you're going to rob this man of his liberty, you're going to take Luigi's liberty away from him, then you're going to do it in a court of law, and you're going to bring incredible evidence that's believable, and you're going to have to be in front of 12 citizens who have to agree unanimously that you have made your burden of proof. That's why I don't care whether he's actually guilty or not. I care about legal guilt. As every criminal defense lawyer would tell you, they care about legal guilt. Actual guilt to me is meaningless. It's meaningless. I don't care. And I shouldn't care. And anyone that does criminal defense work is the same way. They're going to make the government do their proof. And why is that good? Because it protects everyone. It just doesn't protect Luigi. This is where people are losing their sense of what the Bill of Rights means. Have you ever, people on TikTok, taken out the Bill of Rights and read them? I mean, you got freedoms there. Freedom of speech, the freedom to carry a firearm, the freedom of a jury, the freedom that the government cannot rob you of your liberty without proving you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in front of 12 people. Those are rights. And when I'm defending someone, I'm defending that Constitution is what guides me, not my client. It's the Constitution. That's what's important. And that's what everyone has to understand about this. So am I pro Luigi? I'm pro the government making them prove their case. If you made the allegation, now come into court and prove it to 12 people beyond a reasonable doubt. All right. Now let's talk about jury nullification, because I get a lot about that too. So people on TikTok. All right. So Abby Joy, I answered your question. All right. So people on TikTok. Oh, I barely know what I'm doing here. All right, people on TikTok. Jury nullification. What is that? The best example I can give you of jury nullification, and I know I'm a boomer, okay? And many of you millennials and Gen Zs out there probably don't remember the OJ case, but I think that was a jury nullification charge. I think there was overwhelming evidence and they found him not guilty, okay? What is jury nullification? Jury nullification is when a jury, in light of overwhelming evidence, says, we're not going to find the guy guilty. We're just not going to do it. And they have a right to do that. Now, a lawyer cannot get up in court. No lawyer. There's a lot of pundits out there. I've tried a lot of cases in front of federal judges, state judges, okay? You're not allowed to get up in a courtroom and say, now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the judge just instructed you on the law. I want you to ignore that and find my client not guilty because this was a righteous assassination. That judge would sit my ass down, okay? And he would hold probably me in contempt of court, okay? But you can nuance the argument. And that's what OJ's lawyers did. They said you can't trust it because this guy was a racist, or you can't trust it because this guy planted evidence, okay? So you cannot, as a lawyer, argue jury nullification, but you can nuance the argument. And the judge knows you're nuancing it, and everyone knows you're nuancing it, but you're allowed to nuance it. You're allowed to tell the jury you can't trust the evidence. You're allowed to make that argument. You're allowed to say, you can't believe that evidence, or you can't believe that expert, or you can't believe that artificial intelligence. So that's what jury nullification is, okay? A lawyer cannot say to a jury, don't listen to the judge and find my client not guilty because it was the right thing to do. Any lawyer that stood up in court and made that argument, that judge can come down hard on him, okay? But you could say, you know what? They didn't find any DNA. They didn't find any ballistics. These pictures don't really match up. That you can make, okay? All right, the media is doing so much to change people's opinion of Luigi. Wait a minute, who said that? All right, Sunflower asked a question here. Her question was, but the media is doing so much to change people's opinion of Luigi. Quite the contrary. On my comments, Jackie, on my TikTok, the public seems to be with Luigi. That's what's frightening to me.
Why is that frightening to you, David? Because from
they're
my perspective,
they're saying it was okay.
And I hear you. You and I are 100% aligned on, like, listen, folks, there are ways to be vigilant in your justice seeking, and it's not by killing someone. That's never okay. And unless it's your family member that was killed by someone, unless you can come on here and say, oh, then this is okay. Like, you're talking out of your, you know what, like, I'll leave that there.
Right, wait a minute. We have some people on YouTube here, and they're saying, people are trolling me. So, Kessie, Luigi might not have done it. Don't say he was justified. It doesn't help him. I agree with you. I don't think they have the goods on him yet. Okay? People want to argue that it's justified. No, that doesn't help Luigi. Okay? Make the government prove their case. Okay?
But David, to that person's comment, okay, so we'll put a question back to that person, right? Which may or may not be allowed. This is my first time, folks, so sorry. Okay, so if we all rally behind, theoretically, Luigi, because he took out an executive that represents a flawed, effed up healthcare system that disenfranchises American citizens, denies people healthcare, benefits and rights, and results in deaths. The remedy that we're all going to rally behind is we're going to kill that person. And that's the precedent we're going to set forth. So who's better or worse? Is it the executive that suborns and facilitates as the people supporting the cause for Luigi doing this? Like, is it that, or is it it's all dark. It's all bad. Like, we need to do it in a reformed way. Like, so that's where I lose everyone that rallies behind the act and the crime of killing someone, because the people that rally behind him, the reason, most of them in their heart, and it comes from a good place. Like, I get it.
I will say this much. I will say this much. The people that are behind Luigi,
for the right reasons,
are coming from a good place.
Yes.
They feel the disparity in the wealth gap. They feel the disparity. I was talking with a woman who it was heartbreaking for me. I was crying. It was the first time someone on TikTok made me cry. And she said she's with Luigi and she don't care whether he did it or not, because she had breast cancer and she almost died because her insurance company denied her care. I mean, that's so heartbreaking to hear that as a lawyer.
As a human.
I'm a human. We're all human. You know, it's bad. Our healthcare system is shitty. I'm not going to defend it. Okay? I'm not. Okay? But the minute you try to change it, they start calling you a communist or a socialist. Okay? Look, I think the people are coming from a good place. But coming from a good place doesn't mean you end up at a good place.
Okay? No, we don't do the same thing that we're mad at someone else. It wasn't with a gun.
Right.
But it was by denying healthcare benefits to individuals.
Okay.
On a macro level.
I don't know, Jack, if you could see someone on YouTube. It says, #1 reason for American bankruptcy now is healthcare. Yeah, that's really crappy. That's bad. Of course. And I 100% agree with you. So what's the solution? We off all the CEOs? That's not going to solve the problem. They'll just have a host of other people to fill it in. To solve that problem, we got to reform the system, not take justice into your own hands. I agree with you. Healthcare is ridiculous in this country. It's the best healthcare you could get if you could afford it. Okay. But if you can't afford it, you're kind of screwed. So I understand that. So let's change that. Okay. And not give up the fight. People think they're powerless. You're not powerless. The billionaires want you to think you're powerless. You are not powerless. There's less of them than there are of us. Okay? There's less billionaires than there are of ordinary folks. You just got to organize and vote. They can't take that vote away from you. Oh my God, they want to take that vote away from you. Oh my God, the oligarchs and the elitists want to take that vote away from you. Don't you give that up. You go.
But David, don't you think, without making this political, how much money do you think, quantify this, just so far, our taxpayers, our federal government has expended on this case? Aside from the theatrics and the drama of the helicopter on the route, like the amount of money that could have gone to folks that actually need services, like the waste, there's just a shitload of waste. And like, we can't for us to rally behind the Luigi and this was justified killing him and all those things, it would only invite just more waste. And that takes money out of people that
I want to answer Shelly's question here. Shelly on YouTube, I feel we are powerless. Why do you feel you're powerless, Shelly? Why? Why are you letting them beat you down? They want you to feel powerless. You understand the oligarchs, the super rich, they want you to feel powerless. You can't, no one can make you feel any way. You can't help what other people are doing. You have no control over that, people. But you have 100% control over how you react to what people do. And so, Shelly, if you feel you're powerless, then you're going to act powerless. Don't act powerless. Democracy, I don't want to make this too political, but democracy is a participatory sport. You got to get in the game. Okay? I have a question. Can Social Security Office ban you for asking a security card question that cursed and yelled and kicked you out for going up to a window just to ask a question no one was being called to? I don't know what that means. Kayla, Do you have an office in Florida? Well, Jackie's talking to me from our office in Florida. We have an office in Tampa, Florida. We have an office in Palm Beach. Jackie's in our
That's
Palm
where
Beach
I
office.
am. I'm right down the street for, as you say, David, in Mar-a-Lago. I'm quite literally right there. And Cheeto Burrito, who's trolling me apparently on here, thinks that I'm convicting Luigi. Cheeto Burrito, as I'm wearing cheetah, my blazer is cheetah. You can see there's a cheetah behind me. I promise you, this girl believes in the presumption of innocence. And I've made every freaking state prosecutor, federal prosecutor prove their case, because the last thing I believe is that Luigi is anything but innocent until proven guilty. And so let me be clear here. Whenever we're talking about this, Dave and I both, and like people get this misnomer about criminal defense attorneys on, we somehow like get off on getting off guilty people. No, we believe in the Constitution. I'm a defender till I die of the Constitution.
I'm a defender of that Constitution.
Or your family
my last
in that
breath.
defendant's chair, you will change your tune. So I don't normally call out trolls, but like Cheeto Burrito, come on. I'm your person here. Like,
oh, don't let
I'm not
people bother you.
Luigi.
Don't let people bother you. Do you realize how corrupt the major political parties are? Hold on. If we had a democracy, well, look, this gets so political. I don't want it to be political. I want to keep it on a legal tone. The legal tone is that this was let's talk about the perp walk they made Luigi make. That was the worst.
That was like something out of the movies, David.
Oh my, no, it was worse. Timothy McVeigh didn't have a perp walk like that. So you boomers and you Gen Zers, you might not know who Timothy McVeigh was. He blew up the federal building in Oklahoma, killed hundreds of people. Okay. He didn't have a perp walk like Luigi did. Okay. He didn't have a perp walk like Luigi did. Luigi's perp walk was bad. The mayor showing up there, I agree with Karen Friedman Agnifilo. That was so over the top and so ridiculous that it isn't even worth, I mean, but the people are with Luigi. I have more pro Luigi comments than I have the other way comments. Okay.
But David, let me ask you something. Because I personally am pro Luigi in the sense that I don't condone, support killing anyone, hurting anyone. But if the true message was to, in a effed up, non-legal way, to reform healthcare and to make it more accessible for people, I can get behind that. So I understand why people want to root for him right now. Like I get it.
I understand why people want to root for him. I understand why people are frustrated in this country. I understand. And look, you don't know my politics. You can Google my name. I've told people on TikTok, Google my name in the Washington Post, Google my name in the New York Times, Google my name in the Financial Times, Google my name in the LA Times, Google my name in the Mother Jones. You'll see where I fall on the political spectrum. Okay. You'll see where I fall. I wear it on my shoulder. I don't care. Okay. I'm down in Columbus now because I'm the chairman of our board of elections. Okay. And I have to push back against all this election nonsense. And I proudly do it. Okay. So let's look at some of these others. Okay.
What do you
Karen
think, David?
Friedman
I have a
Agnifilo.
question for you.
This is a good question. This McAllister has a question. Karen Friedman Agnifilo needs to put healthcare on trial. I'm sure she's going to weave that into her argument. This is a very experienced lawyer, Karen Friedman Agnifilo. If you look at my post, I call her the Lamborghini of lawyers. I call her the Lamborghini of lawyers. I use picture words when I talk to people. I'm trained as a trial lawyer. People think in pictures. So I use picture words. So when I say she's the Lamborghini of lawyers, you think, oh my God, she's really good. Yeah, she is really that good. She'll know how to handle this case. He's in very good hands with her. I'm so happy she's representing him. Okay? She knows how to push back. I mean, look how they dressed in court. You think that was by accident? No, this woman's very adept at what she's doing. Her and Luigi, she's humanizing Luigi to the American public. And he should be treated like a human and not like a piece of garbage and not like he's guilty all of a sudden. He's not guilty until the government proves him guilty. And unless and until he pleads guilty or they find him guilty, he's presumed to be innocent. Whether you like that or not, that's in our Constitution. That's in what's called the Bill of Rights. Okay? Let's stick to the facts. If the wait a minute, I want to see what this person says.
But David,
if
to that
you are
point,
Luigi, let's hope KFA fights these charges. Well, Karen Friedman, you're calling her KHA, it's KFA. KFA is also a pragmatist, okay? We don't know whether the federal government has not indicted him yet. Now, New York does not have the death penalty, but the federal government does. If the federal government puts the death spec on Luigi, which they could do, we don't know whether they're going to do that or not. And Karen Friedman sees a mountain of evidence, she's going to do what's best for her client, okay? She's a fighter. Karen Friedman Agnifilo fights, okay? She knows how to get into that arena of battle. And so people that have not been in the arena of battle, let me tell you what it's like. They pit the lawyers against one another, okay? It's an adversarial system. They make the lawyers fight almost. It's like putting two pit bulls in a cage and saying fight, and then follow these rules when you're fighting. But what's amazing about the system is when you are in an adversarial system and you are talking about the truth comes out. When I got to cross-examine an ATF agent on a silencer case that I won in federal court, and he was up there, so confidently spewing all of his nonsense. When I gave him the cross-examination I gave him, I acquitted my client, okay? That's what a skilled lawyer does. He subjects that evidence to grueling cross-examination. That's what a good lawyer does. He prepares, he cross-examines, he tests the government's case, and she'll do that. All right. Can you please talk about the distance? Well, according to the government, he jumped on a subway. Can you please talk about, wait a minute, what's this about the administrative judge? Okay. Okay, wait a minute. I named the little pit bull I just rescued Luigi. How cute. All right, what's this? I thought he rode a bike. They're saying he did ride a bike, but they're supposedly showed us a video of him jumping on a subway with the bike. Okay. What about the Menendez brothers case? Well, I've talked about that case. Go on my TikTok page. I think they should be released. If the Menendez brothers were tried today, they wouldn't be in jail for the rest of their lives. Okay. We're almost out of time, people. So let me the jury will be a public trial. The public is invited to the trial. Now, they may have limited seating. They may have an overflow room, but all trials in America are public. Everyone listen to that. All trials are public. Okay? That's how we do things in the light of day. And we make the government bring the goods. Okay. I work in a prison with the Menendez brothers. The whole prison, what's this? The whole prison is on high alert every day. Well, I don't want to talk about the Menendez brothers here. It's 8:00, people. And unfortunately, I got to get back down and talk to some people in Columbus. Jackie, thank you for joining us. People on TikTok, listen to me, everyone. Luigi's presumed innocent. If they had really good evidence, you don't think they'd have leaked it to us already? Really? They don't have DNA. They don't have ballistics. You don't think one of those NYPD guys would have leaked that to the press? Yeah, they would have. All they got right now are some photos, okay, and a timeline. I don't think that's enough. What they have now. They're still investigating this case, and we don't know what the end result is. And so, c'est la vie. We have to let it play out. Jackie, thank you for joining us from Palm Beach, even though she's by you-know-who. Thank you for joining us from Palm Beach. Jackie and I are separate political parties, but we still work together. Thank you for everyone joining us. And we'll do it. We'll do another live.
You see it the way it is, David, and that is what people want to hear, because the censored shit that you see on the TV isn't what you hear from David. And while we might not agree on everything,
TikTok today, by the way, the TikTok, they like hid it from everyone. It's ridiculous what TikTok's doing, and what they're doing. People are commenting. I mean, we have freedom of speech. So,
David, we will contend to fight for the Constitution till we die.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. And we will let you know when our next live will be. Thank you. All right.